Welcome to the Consultants Way podcast, where we explore the world of professional services consulting. Hosted by Dean McMann and Anthony Paluska, each episode delivers expert insights, real-world stories, and interviews with top consultants to help you refine your consulting skills. Thank you guys so much for having me. I'm Caitlin Ferguson. I'm the founder of COOpilots.io. We help founders of professional services and SaaS firms figure out how to get out of the organizational chaos and to grow and reclaim headspace, revenue, time, and get on the path to growth and success.
It's great, and we're excited to dive into the details of your business and some of the problems that you solve and how you're addressing those things. But maybe provide the audience with a little bit about your background and experience before starting this firm, and we'll go from there.
So my background is I cut my teeth in operations at my parents' accounting firm. They were both founders of an accounting firm. I got a chance to see inside the business there and also get to see inside founders' businesses because a lot of people they supported were small business owners. On an aside, if anybody shows up with a box full of receipts, I might have a PTSD reaction after years of doing that. But I got to love the business and went and founded a business myself, grew it, scaled it, exited it. Did some research out of Emory on how about 6,500 entrepreneurs around the world developed, which was really a fascinating adventure. Spent some time supporting some technical entrepreneurs here in Atlanta at an incubator that was focused on really high-tech 5G startups. And then got into innovation and management consulting, worked with global firms, loved that work. And then last year, hung out a shingle for myself because I really felt that calling of getting back to helping founders. In my career, I've helped about 100 founders overall, and top line revenue, we've been able to grow about 18 million for our clients.
Wow, that's very exciting. What do you see right now with people in and let's give them a stage one instead of zero, because so that's not really you don't really want to meet with Jim Bob Helderser at the bar and Jimmy wants to start a firm. So are we seeing any trends that they're changing, the kind of problems they have, the kind of situations they're in?
So I tend to start working with professional services founders when they're feeling a couple of pain points. One, they're hitting some kind of wall. They know the growth is there. They're feeling like they're getting the clients in, but the growth isn't happening. So maybe they're constantly firefighting. They're always in crisis mode, helping people with questions, trying to get their team moving in the right direction. Maybe their teams are frustrated. Maybe there's just straight a cash flow problem. They've gotten additional clients in, but at the end of the month, it's not balancing, or heaven forbid, payroll's about to hit and they don't have the cash to make that payment to payroll. Those are usually the moments where the professional services founders in particular recognize that they've got a business. They know the service model works, but something's not working and they need to be able to dig in. In my experience, a lot of it comes back to getting a good look at the financial data first, because I think that's actually often where the root cause of operations goes sideways.
If you were going to tell someone in their early stage, this is how you know you need help, right? Even before it becomes a crisis, what would you share?
So again, I think working harder, things aren't moving forward. I think cash flow issues are a big one. Or honestly, I can't tell you the number of times where I've worked with founders and there's not even, visibility into the financials. They know there's money going in and out, but there's not a budget. They've not pulled a P&L or balance sheet, anything like that. So 2, I would say financial management is probably a better early signal. And then there's something happening with delivery. Clients are leaving, the teams are confused, something's inconsistent. All of those things, I think, roll up into bigger issues that if we can catch it at the root, are easier to solve.
Yeah. I'm going to propose a couple of labels, and you tell me if I'm totally off base on this, or help refine my way of thinking about this. So you have founders of these firms, and you have the rainmaker kind, right? The one that has market access, market opportunity, is able to drive business and deals, and that's their primary gift. You have the operators that that probably aren't the ideal clients for you because that's their expertise and that's their gift. And then you have the gurus or the experts at how to get the work done, the delivery, that sort of thing. For a second, are those three fair labels of the kinds of people that you come across? Is there another category? Because I might want to use these later to say, well, what's different about what the rainmaker as a founder might be experiencing than the guru?
It's an interesting distinction. I don't know that it matters as much at this stage because so often the founders are the primary salespeople, regardless of whether or not they want to be. And part of the issue I see is that people are playing so many different roles and wearing so many different hats that, saying that folks are gurus in the delivery or in the sort of making the idea happen versus sales might almost be a distinction that would suggest another stage, if that makes sense.
Okay. Yeah, no, that does. And so that actually, in a lot of ways, makes this conversation a little bit easier because now we say everybody that's at stage one, as Dean described, is essentially faced with the same problems, no matter what your background really is. And so you explained a couple of those common problems. Let's say I'm experiencing one of those. I'm in that situation right now, and I see some of these different pain points there. Maybe I see all of them. What would you suggest I do first? How might I even begin to diagnose some of
after they call you?
After they get my number from y'all, I think step one has got to get clarity in the data. You absolutely have to be able to get an accurate picture on financial health, on baselining the processes, on getting clear on how you're delivering value to clients. You can't optimize processes if you're not clear on what steps drive what change and what outcomes for your clients and why they matter. Otherwise, you can build a super fast process, but it drives absolutely no difference to the people who you're trying to help. I think the core of it is understanding time and money. You've got to understand where the resources are going. Are they driving value? Because without the clarity, you can't remove bottlenecks or scale the business. So step one is absolutely baseline where everything is.
If just taking on that, not just where you start, but I'm going to pose a problem, and not to and we're not trying to stump the specialist, but I see this in friends and other places that they've done okay, right? They're small, they're done okay. Clients love them, but they have multiple partners and everybody's voice is the same. And Carol Beth over there wants to spend her time doing what she thinks is important. And Jim Bob, you can tell I'm from Texas, wants to spend the time he thinks. And how do you bring discipline or order out of that kind of normal partnership chaos?
Yeah. So one of the things we go into every engagement and do is map out values first. And founders in particular, it's about split on whether or not they understand the importance of doing this as a first step. But a lot of times we don't even realize how we're running organizations is tied to what we are holding dear. So we help them understand values, understand some of the cultural norms that they're setting up. And some of that comes into even communication between co-founders, right? Because anybody who's ever had partners or co-founders understands that it's the business marriage. You're going to have moments where you're aligned and everything's rosy. And you're going to have moments where you're in conflict, and it feels like higher stakes because those values come into conflict with each other. So sometimes it's as simple as naming what are the things that are important. How do we agree that this is the organizational sets of norms and values? And then how are we going to, align these values to the strategy so that we're not in conflict with each other? We're talking about what is the optimal thing to drive the business forward. So it can be as simple as sort of getting it out of people's heads and putting it into a conversational tool that can be used to facilitate more easy conversations. I don't want to say easy period, but more easier conversations between the founders or the managing partner.
Yeah, it depersonalizes some of those conflicts that you might have because now you're competing or you're arguing with this is inconsistent with the values we've aligned on rather than I disagree with this thing that you believe versus what I believe on something, right? Is that,
Right.
yeah. How do you go through, I mean, just, you say you start every engagement with that. How do you go through
Yeah.
that exercise?
So I have a card sort exercise where I ask if there's multiple founders. Some of the organizations I work with, there's only the one. But we ask them to sort them into 4 categories, so by importance. And then we have a narrowing exercise so that they can come back and figure out what are the actual core 5 to 7. There's 100 cards to start with.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it can get pretty overwhelming. But when you have scenarios where you're having to sort of layer them, you start to watch some really interesting internal debate come out. And then once we see sort of that last list, we'll also generate some business scenarios. This is the beauty of ChatGPT, where those 2 values are in conflict, and then ask the founder to go ahead and answer how they would handle each of those scenarios to see if their sense of things and how it shows up in the business resonates with that original exercise.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Yeah. Yeah. We've done that over the years with the, and it's always enlightening. Always enlightening. I always find out I'm wrong, and I'm obedient to that.
You're used to it by now.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Perfect.
Well, I've got a lot of children that explain that to me.
Yeah. So we've gone through okay, I understood I had a problem, and then you've taken us through this journey of trying to understand where do I start, right? Wrap our arms around the data. How do we do this, right? The ultimate goal, as I understand it from you, is, right, we're trying to get that founder out of the day-to-day operation so that they can work on the business rather than in the business. Is that kind of that's the ultimate journey we're on? How do you think about that journey? What are some of those key steps? Now, I mean, independent of what we find from the data, what are some of the key themes that help to get the founder, in this case, out of the day-to-day operations of things?
Yeah. So step 1, get their vision on paper. And it's not just the vision for what the business could be in 5 years. What is a sustainable business for them now? What are their ideas of, work-life balance, an ideal workday, things like that? We have to start there to understand how it should operate in a sustainable way for them. From there, building clear processes, structure, and accountability so they know when to zoom in and when they can lean out. Tracking key metrics and putting together an executive dashboard for them for the same reasons. We wanted them to be able to monitor performance at a high level and be freed from getting pulled into the weeds. And then also it's about giving them a clear mandate. There's a moment for founders when the business is starting to work well where they kind of go, what's my role now? So as they step into the role of visionary, that's a difficult transition for some. So, helping them, to your point, focus on business development, innovation, governance of the organization, things like that, just making sure that transition feels seamless for them.
Yeah. How long do you normally work with, forever, because, they always need you, but
yeah,
let's say you're a 20-person group
mm-hmm.
and you're doing, management consulting, but you've got some tech,
mm-hmm.
right? You've got, either you're repping somebody else's tech or you got something, but they're typical to all your situations. Right. So how long do you normally interact with them?
I recommend founders think about the journey as being at least 18 months to get up to the level of scale that they want, because there are just so many layers and building blocks over time. And it's entirely unique to the organization what sort of things we'll need to work on. A program that we're launching soon will actually place an operations lead with them while I backfill as COO. My hope is that operations lead will grow with them and the business. So as they scale up, as they have additional needs, eventually that person may become a permanent resource to them in whatever
that's interesting.
levels necessary. Yeah. So it could be that this is something where there is a much longer horizon, but I would say at a minimum, founders need to plan on an 18-month horizon.
We have built our career on the objectivity and experience we can bring, but we also use external people And I'm a big proponent of this.
Yeah.
When you're facing something, even though you understand all the business tools, you still are living in the house and you still can't see everything, and you need someone with perspective to call your silliness silly. You think X, but that's just silly. Just like we do for clients. And I just applaud that there's you out there helping small firms, get out of their own way, if you will.
Yeah. One of my favorite clients sent me a recording of him in a meeting the other day talking about the power of the work together. And it was interesting because he thought he needed more gas in the tank, and it turns out what he needed was a better set of brakes. And at first I thought we may want to qualify that so people don't think I'm just telling you no all the time and that you're enjoying it. But it's true. I mean, especially with founders, being able to help them see the vision, help them grow the business, provide enough of the barriers on the lane so that there's focus is an art, right? Because founders, it's not just a job. This was a passion for you for some reason to be able to get in and build this business. So it's unique to be able to support that journey for sure.
Yeah. Hey, give us an example of a big impact. Sure. And you don't have to go through the process. I worked with these people, and this was what was different at the end.
Yeah. So we had a great client this year who had tried a bunch of strategies before, but he was done being stuck in that lifestyle business. He really wanted growth to happen, and he recognized that stronger operations was key for that. So his team was delivering, but it wasn't optimized. So over the past 6 months, we've guided his company through this evolution, and it started with time tracking, finding opportunities for efficiency, productizing his mix of services, and rebuilding how the work was delivered. Just last week, while his family was on vacation, I was able to share the update with him that we're on track to 10x his profit for the year. That's the type of impact I love to deliver, helping founders grow their business and regain control of their time.
Wow, that's very powerful. 10x is a big number. It is. I mean, just playing off something you said, in our industry, and maybe all, we see people that have built a lifestyle business, right? Yeah. And maybe they get bored with it. And I understand that, right?
Yeah.
But rehabilitating that is not as easy as a decision, I want more.
Yes.
Because you've built habits.
Yes.
You may have built, if you have a family, you may have built structures that rely on you now. It's not that easy.
No, it's why we start with a lot of the conversations around vision and values, because it's a very different thing to grow a firm to 200 people, multi-million dollars versus 6 million and 20 to 50 folks, right?
Yeah.
As you both well know.
Yeah.
So and I think we've seen more recently with professional services firms being able to exit, which hasn't always been the norm. So now there's new options on the horizon for founders. It's not just build it and will I be able to sell it or pass the baton one day. Now it's, can I exit and what kind of return can I get?
Yeah, it's a good, even though it's a moment in time with a lot of angst in the economy and angst in decisions about government. It is for a period of time, and I think that'll continue for a long time. People are able to get out of PS, professional service firms, and because they're private equity, there's a lot of people who can take them and they can get a retirement instead of just working till they die. So
or working beyond when they die, depending on
working beyond when they die. So before we did you have anything?
Yeah, when we were catching up a little bit earlier, you were talking about this new thing you've been doing where you're offering this one-day workshop and you're spending a day with either a current client or a prospective client and taking them through almost like a fast track of the early stages of a relationship together. Talk a little bit about what that looks like and what kind of things you're seeing and expecting from that.
Yeah, so we're offering VIP days to founders of professional services. That includes a little bit of pre-workshop work. So we'll get some documents from you so that we can make sure we're prepared for the conversation. We'll spend 2 to 3 hours together really diagnosing issues with you and your executive team, uncovering root causes, making sure we've got clear what your top priorities are for the quarter. Then if you have contractors or staff, we'll spend some time in the afternoon with them. But then within the week, we'll come back with a 90-day action plan of how we can help alleviate some of the pain, some of the bottlenecks, some of the things that are keeping you up at night. And then we'll follow up in 2 weeks to see how that went, how implementation has gone, what tweaks you would like to see in the future. For those who've listened to the podcast, if they reach out on the website, which I'm sure you'll have in the show notes, we're offering a 40% discount for folks who have listened to the podcast today.
Oh, that's great.
That's a great offer.
How many of those can you take on? I mean, there's going to be a flood. No. How many?
There's worse fates, right?
Right.
I think we are looking to do 3 to 5 a month.
Yeah, that's great. That's a good pace. Pace.
If 200 people show up, I'll figure it out.
Yeah. No problem. Well, listen, we'd love to have you back. And I was so excited when I met you, and I'm still excited that there's someone who can really provide true help.
Yeah.
As stage 1, stage 2 firms are struggling to find their feet. As a person who founded a firm, I remember some dark days.
Yeah. Well, I think I
wrote a lot of checks.
Yeah, I have a special place in my heart because I've been a founder. My parents were founders. I know what that's like. Sometimes it's a blessing just to be able to have somebody that you can shut the door and go, I'm just going to unload my brain now. We're going to talk about how frustrating today was. I appreciate the opportunity to share the story, and hopefully we can continue to carry the impact to a wider audience.
Yep. Well, thanks so much. Great seeing you again. I am very excited that there are people who are providing, and I think she does a great job, but providing that help, again, because I went through that. And, we have the forest for the trees problems just like our clients do.
Oh yeah, all the time.
All the time.
Yeah. If it was, if we just did everything that we advise our clients to do, life would be a lot easier, wouldn't it?
That's a little too honest there. Buddy.
It's true though. It is. You reflect on some guidance that you're providing to somebody, and it does make you appreciate a little how difficult it is for even our clients to implement some of the things because something happens and there's things going on, but having somebody guide you through that process that is an external resource to facilitate those discussions and decisions and standardization of processes. And
then hold you accountable.
It's really important.
Yeah,
right?
And I think it's particularly difficult when, be them partners or not, you should call them multiple founders, the intimacy and camaraderie built in a professional service firm, it is difficult to have conversations, and they could become personal. So again, just having a third party go, hey, that just doesn't seem to line up with everything we've said.
Right.
No, I think that's great, and what a treat to meet her and help her get her message out.
Yes.
So I'm excited about that.
Yes. No, and very gracious of her to offer that to our listeners.
Oh,
and,
yeah, that was nice of her. Yeah.
All
right.
All right.
So great job.
Thanks.